Hello and welcome back to the Boropolis podcast. As usual, I am joined with Nathan and Middlesbrough still remain unbeaten. They may not be gate crashing the playoffs, but they are 9 games unbeaten. Nathan, like last week, it's a little bit of a strange situation because there's every reason to be happy, but then there's also that sort of feeling of disappointment, I guess, in the back of the mind, the fact that this run of form is going to really mean nothing at the end of the season. But nonetheless, as I say, 9 unbeaten, ending the season with a bit of good form. And yeah, we don't have to come on and rant really. We've got 2 games to discuss and obviously the Leeds game to preview. But overall, it should be a fairly upbeat podcast again this week.
Yeah, it's nice to come on here and be positive, isn't it? Yeah, as you mentioned there, this run of form isn't going to amount to anything in terms of a prize at the end of the season, but it's nice to be ending the season on a little bit of good form, a little bit of a high, and gaining some momentum to hopefully fly into next season in that first weekend of August and try and beat teams instead of just letting teams have a 8 or 10 game head start on us. So yeah, hopefully that is the case, and this is what it's all about. Some lads getting some really good form behind them and really good confidence in playing in this system. So yeah, it's been a really positive week playing 2 sides that, yeah, this is our sort of batch of 3 fixtures that everyone looked at a month or so ago and thought, well, we're going to be up shit creek when we play them 3 fixtures. And yeah, you play Hull first and then Ipswich. And I think last week we sort of spoke about potentially coming out of that with 9 points. Well, we're not coming out of it with 9 points, but we're coming out of it at the minute unbeaten, with 2 out of 3 of those games played. So yeah, really positive, Chris. How have you been apart from Middlesbrough this week? How have you been getting on?
Yeah, I've been good to be honest. Another week goes by at work. They seem to just be flying by at the moment. I don't know why, but yeah, they seem to pass dead quickly. And then obviously to celebrate Middlesbrough getting a point at Portman Road, I did have a few ales last night. I don't know if you can tell in my voice or even just by the look of me if you're watching on YouTube, but I did feel extremely rough this morning. So yeah, I mean, my mood's been brightened by the fact that Arsenal seemingly have managed to mess up the league. But yeah, this is a Middlesbrough podcast, so we'll not talk too much about that. But yeah, before we jump straight into things, Nathan, I mean, how's your week been as well? I'm not completely a horrible person, and I'm not going to ask you as well.
Yeah, mate, sound. As you say, the week's just flying by. Hopefully, we get to that time of the year where the good weather starts to roll in, and yeah, we can have a few Luke Aylings in the beer garden soon enough.
Yeah, that will be good. Get him on the plane, Gareth. I mean it. So right into the football now, Nathan. Rewinding back to Hull, obviously at that stage we'd seen that Hayden Hackney and Ralph Vandenberg had been on the bench for the Swansea game. I think a few people were really sort of expecting both of them to come straight into the team after being back on the bench and being involved. Obviously, that wasn't the case for Hackney, but of course, great to see Rav back in that back line. As expected, really, it was Dan Barlaser that missed out, and obviously Howson moved further forward after his little cameo of appearances at centre half. The left back discussion, was it somewhat of a shock to see Engel back in there, given that Luke Thomas had made it into team of the week somehow? I say
Yeah,
somehow, it sounds a little bit unfair, but yeah, surely there must have been a better left back performance than his against Swansea.
yeah. No, I wasn't entirely shocked by it. Obviously, I know it's sort of a not a nice thing to say, but Sheffield Wednesday and Swansea within the space of a week are two easy fixtures to ease Thomas into and give Engel a little bit of a rest. And yeah, fully expected him to come in for Hull, and he did that. And obviously now, strangely enough, Thomas came in as cover for Bangura, and Bangura is now back on the bench as he was at Hull on Wednesday evening. So yeah, getting a few bodies back now towards the end of the season. A little bit frustrating about Hackney, obviously set back once again. Carrick sort of mentioned that he had that injury in the past, and sometimes as you're coming back from it, you just feel it again, and it just sort of is best to ease up and have an extra week off or so. So yeah, with another neat, well, over a week now until we play Leeds. Hopefully, that gives Hackney enough time to be fit and available for the squad for Leeds. But yeah, pretty pleased with the team. Really, Rav coming back in, Howson in midfield. It's probably what we're more likely to see in the future. I mean, Howson's deputised incredibly well at centre half. He's like the most reliable man in the world, isn't he, Johnny Howson? Can play anywhere and will always put 7 or 8 out of 10 in literally any position. I think you could shot him in goal and he'd be fine.
Yeah,
Um,
I wouldn't want to bet against it. I really wouldn't.
yeah, so yeah, pretty pleased with the side. Um, Obviously we spoke about Hull last week and spoke about the game being sort of do or die for both sides' playoff chances. Obviously, the game coming on the Wednesday, you saw the results that preceded that on the Tuesday, which were Norwich throwing a 2-0 lead away at Hillsborough late on in the game.
Coventry got beat off Southampton, didn't they?
Coventry got beat at Southampton, yeah, so the two sides above us there in the table that both got beat. That yeah, you're hoping that you can be the side out of us and Hull to capitalise, get 3 points, and then you close that gap to Norwich. It was always going to be a tight game, but yeah, it was a stalemate in the end, and I think a draw was probably fair on the balance of the game, really.
Not according to Liam Rossini, Nathan. Dear me. I think he's absolutely in cloud cuckoo land, to be honest, if he honestly believes that Hull played as well as what he made out. I mean, talk about unnecessarily keeping possession. And obviously the role that he's developed for Ryan Giles, whose main strengths are attacking and crossing the ball, being don't let him overlap the winger is an interesting one at that. But yeah, we'll speak a little bit about Ryan Giles later on. But yeah, obviously, I mean, we couldn't have really started better, to be honest. Got the early goal, of course. Who else would it be? Latty Laugh. Good little knock inside from Engel. And it's one of those chances where at the start of the season, again, like we've said, doesn't score. And I think just in terms of the run of form he's on, it is literally a case of everything he seems to be touching just hits the back of the net. And it's just lovely to see. It's a player with confidence. And you're kind of now thinking, okay, Middlesbrough scouts may well have found an absolute gem here because we'd never questioned any of his other attributes, his pace, his movement. You saw that within the first 15 minutes of his debut. It was just the finishing that was a problem. Obviously, he's now finding that kind of form where he is now, I think, reached the point officially where we are going to probably bring a striker in. Well, we are definitely going to have to bring a striker in the summer. But to begin with, Latty Laugh, because of this form, will be given a chance to start next season as the main man. Whether we spend big, obviously that probably won't be the case, but regardless of who we sign, Latty Laugh, assuming he is absolutely fine through pre-season, doesn't pick up any injuries, is going to be the man that starts on the first day of next season, you'd imagine. So yeah, it's been quite the turnaround, but a wonderful one at that. Great finish. And I'm not going to lie, for probably 15 to 20 minutes. I thought we were absolutely outstanding. We probably should have added another. Obviously, of course, the greedy football fan inside of me thinks, right, okay, let's just get the game done and dusted and let's go within 4 points of the playoffs. Obviously, after the great start, we did retreat a little bit and a couple of individual errors seemed to creep in. And then, of course, within, well, the remainder of the first half, Hull found themselves in front. And at that point, as they were piling crosses into the box, I think just before they actually did score, Senny makes a string of absolutely incredible saves, manages to keep us in the game, and you start to think, oh my God, we might well just have one of those evenings here where it just all works out for us. Obviously, that wasn't to be the case, but I must say, when Hull went in front and were piling that pressure on before we got in at the break, I did think, is it the old cliche of we've gone ahead and scored too early?
Yeah, possibly. As you mentioned there, 15, 20 minutes, I thought we were fine, comfortable in the game, go 1-0 up. And then the balance of the game just changes. Yeah, you mentioned Dieng's saves there, one in particular from a Greaves header that he nodded into the ground, and Senny just tips it wide. Great save, top save. But yeah, constant pressure down both sides, really. Obviously, Philogene down the left-hand side up against Ayling. He had the beating of him all day for pace, obviously, but kept cutting inside and yeah, was successful with his delivery for the equaliser. I think it was eventually given to Tufan. I'm not entirely sure if he's actually got too much of a flick on the ball, but it's one of them. It's one that always kills the keeper. We conceded one at Plymouth with Whitaker, and the ball goes all the way through. And they are really just shit goals to concede. They really are, because your keeper doesn't necessarily want to gamble on that side in case the attacker, then heads it in the other corner and he looks like a mug. But yeah, he doesn't get there to the flick on or the floated delivery to the back post, and it goes all the way through. But look, it was coming. It was coming. There's no denying that. Hull were piling on the pressure, and we did nothing to be able to counteract that. We just kept falling further and further deeper. And then obviously the second goal is the killer, really. Dieng, as your goalkeeper, it must be the first time this season that we've had it where we've actually had a mistake playing out from the back from our goalkeeper. But yeah, Dieng has O'Brien showing, but surely you can see Seri up his, like, literally up his backside. It's not like a sort of half-hearted press from Seri. He's right up his backside, and he's gonna get there. But yeah, ideally, you want your player in that position to be able to turn it around the corner. I think the pass to him has sold him short anyway. Really, it's not punched into him with any sort of venom to deal with it. It's laboured and just a shit pass, really, from Dieng. He's brought it upon himself. Seri does really well to nick it off O'Brien and finish in fairness to him. But yeah, I think if you want to be dead harsh, you just hoping that O'Brien can get there and knock it straight back to Dieng and clear. But
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
knackering.
You're looking at Dieng there, and unfortunately, it's just one of those where, even some of the best keepers in the world do that. You've seen Edison and Allison have them types of moments. Just unfortunately, this one results in a goal, and because of the way we play, because of the way that Dieng plays, there's always a chance it can happen. I did feel that, to be honest, after that, Dieng's distribution especially just went to the absolute dogs, really, and that's not like him at all. We've had a couple of occasional nervy moments, but for the most part, Senny Dieng's been fantastic for Middlesbrough. And I think that mistake really just wobbled him for the rest of the game, in all honesty. He did actually make another great save at 2-2, I think it was, late on in the game. But in terms of his distribution, you could see the obvious effect that it had. Do you know what? I thought in the second half we might be in bother here, and it was so frustrating because we'd started so well. They found themselves in the lead, and then, as you say, they have a lot of quality. Philogene, whether he's worth 40 million or not is a different story altogether, but he's certainly an effective player. And as you say, he was given Luke Ayling all kinds of bother, really, because, you're kind of expecting Luke Ayling to, not really want to show him down the line because he'll beat him for pace. But then he also doesn't want to allow him to cut in on his stronger foot and potentially do exactly what he does for the first goal. So, it's a difficult one for Luke Ayling in that scenario. You're just hoping he can get as tight as possible and obviously stop him producing moments of quality, I guess. And he wasn't as effective in the second half. Ayling did a little bit better and seemed to cope a little bit better. I thought, to be honest, that Engel was all right at best. I do think our fullbacks were potentially two of the players that are on Wednesday night that I'm not saying were horrendous. They just didn't perform that well. But I don't think it was in terms of individual bad performances. I think it was more in terms of just the players that we're playing against just happened to be good. The lad from Hull, who I believe they signed, his name escapes me now. I'm going to have to quickly look this up.
Omer, the winger.
Yeah, that's the one. Thank you for that, Nathan. Omer, they snapped him up for, I don't think it was a great deal of money. Was it in January? But he looked lively. Reminded me of Patrick Roberts a little bit, the way that he carried the ball in his left foot. And I thought he had a good game. So obviously Engel had his work cut out there a little bit. And then, as I say, we get in at half time. You kind of think, right, that's come at a good time. Come out for the second half, in all honesty, we didn't really improve all too much. We sort of, for a little period at the beginning of the second half, Hull continued to have chances and put us under pressure. And you did think, oh God, well, if they get the third, it's game, set and match. But then, like this unbeaten run has shown throughout, really, at the moment, Middlesbrough just seem to find an answer when they need to. And it's a cracking goal, isn't it? It's a wonderful, wonderful counter-attack. And Finn Azaz, who I think we've made our feelings clear about, who hasn't quite, hit the ground running as such since he's joined Middlesbrough, manages to get on the score sheet, and it's a good assist from Jones just to cut it back. Funnily enough, Ryan Giles trying to cover and run back and catch up with Izzy Jones. I'm sure that happened plenty of times in training last year. But yeah, I think, to be honest, funnily enough, if that substitution isn't made, the goal probably doesn't happen, in all honesty.
Yeah, strange goal, really strange goal in terms of just being completely against the run of play. It felt like the goal just come out of absolutely nowhere, really. Yeah, you get yourself back into the game with 15, 20 minutes to go, and it is literally all to play for at that moment in time. And the game did open up. There was a couple of chances for both sides after that, really. Boro's chances were very sort of
There was
half.
one chance I remember where Azaz went through on the left and the ball bounced and he headed it to control it. And then I think he just absolutely sort of skewed his shot. And that seemed to be a real moment. It was very quickly after we just got the equaliser, and you thought, oh my God, that would have really, really been a misery compiler on Hull. But yeah, as you say, it did become a little bit frantic, a little bit like a basketball match. And I think really both teams knew, if we don't win here, I know Hull have, of course, won yesterday now and they've got a game in hand, but it did feel at that time that, well, a draw is not going to be helpful to either team. So we're going to have to basically risk losing. And yeah, I was expecting from that moment, as you say, because of the way that it turned and the nature of the game, I was expecting there to be a winner in the end. And obviously that wasn't to be the case, but, it kept the unbeaten run going. It's somewhat because of Norwich's result meant that everyone was still a little bit, well, it could be on, another game ticks by, but it could still happen. Obviously, following events yesterday is really now, not mathematically, but in the real world, it's done and dusted. But yeah, I mean, overall, I think because of the performance, because of the team that we were playing, and because of the fact that we kept the unbeaten run going, as much as you were frustrated that we couldn't get all 3 points, the full time whistle went, and I was pretty pleased overall, to be honest.
Yeah, I was. Look, I know the conversation just to try and keep any sort of optimism going in the fan base has been, oh well, we're on such a good unbeaten run, and we've somehow found ourselves in eighth or ninth place. The playoffs are on. They haven't really been on, despite being a couple of points off. I've reiterated the point for a good while now, since that Stoke defeat and being 6 points above the relegation zone, just being safe in the division has been sort of the priority for me. Just being mid-table, steady, and just moving forward and trying to build momentum for next season. And to go away to Hull, who obviously we know were probably before Christmas on a sort of level playing field to us in terms of side. And then obviously in January they spent heavily, not necessarily on transfer fees, because all of these players will be heading back off to their parent clubs in a month's time, but spent heavily in terms of loan fees and attracting players that are difference makers in this division, have proven it in the past. But yeah, to go there and pick up a positive result again, despite not playing anywhere near our best. I don't think we were anywhere near our best on Wednesday night, and we limited Hull somewhat, conceded 2 goals, yes. Were they sort of our own doing? One of them, definitely. And then, yeah, scored two pretty good goals on the break ourselves. So, yeah, really positive, if I'm honest. And sort of at full time, you read through social media and you see the reaction, and it's like playoffs are done. And you're like, a month ago, we were really up shit creek. I think that's fair to say. And they've
Up
turned it.
until Borja Signs got sent off for Norwich, I was convinced we were going down, to be honest.
Yeah, exactly. And we were poor in that first half as well. So it just goes to show. But yeah, we were pr pretty okay on Wednesday evening. Sort of well value for a point. And yeah, to I suppose pressure can do things to different sides, and playing these sides that have things to play for at this stage of the season can sort of skew the game a little bit, because we haven't got, despite what anyone in the club's saying, we haven't got too much of a chance. So going to Hull, picking up a good result in a game that they must win, we sort of must win, I suppose, if you want to put that spin on it. But yeah, I didn't feel any pressure going there on Wednesday night, and was pretty pleased with the point on the road. Nice to see Gilo get a sort of comical reception from the away end in terms of a few jeers and boos. I think I probably would have done the same with him being an opposition player, but at the end, I'm glad that it was taken all in a little bit of jest from Ryan Giles, who headed over to the away end after the Middlesbrough squad applauded the travelling support, and he gave his own little clap. So, with your little conversation about the team lineup and not being necessarily comfortable with Engel's performance, you said it was all right. And what you've seen of him this year so far, obviously it's hard to give an opinion on Bangura given we haven't seen a whole lot of him. You saw social media at the end. I sent you a couple of tweets. from Hull fans about Ryan Giles and
If
him
you're
being
gonna ask if I'd have him back, yes, I'd snap him up in a heartbeat, Nathan.
even despite him being caught way out of position for the goal.
Yes, 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 100 times yes. I still have an emotional attachment to that man, and that is something that is quite strange for me to say. But it's not even just because he still so happens to follow Boropolis on Twitter as well. It is just because I miss seeing him whip crosses in. And I mean, could you imagine? We've sort of found this out of nowhere attribute of Luke Ayling's crossing ability. Could you imagine crosses coming in from either side for the main man in the centre?
Who just
I
nods
mean,
them in for fun.
well, he just, yeah, as you say, nods them in for fun. He'll have about 40 by Christmas if we bring Giles back. It would actually be unfair on the division, attacking wise anyway, because I mean, you know, we did see that he is sometimes defensively a little bit suspect, but yeah, I still love him. So yes, I would take him back, Nathan.
Yeah,
Um,
it's the
just a
emotional
spe-
connection, Chris. It's the emotional connection. I think we both love him, but yes.
yeah,
On we
yeah,
go with the podcast because it won't happen.
yeah, that's definitely the case. Just a special mention for one performance, and it's quite interesting because I mean, me and you hammer each other usually in regards to most opinions that we have on football, but I thought Matt Clark was really, really good. He was just a machine, wasn't he? Everything that came into the box, he either blocked or headed. And I mean, ironically, yesterday, I don't know what he's doing for Ipswich's goal, but my goodness, I don't think a cross coming into the box that he didn't manage to make some sort of contact with on Wednesday night. So I did just want to put that out there, just to confirm to you more than anything, Nathan, that I don't have some sort of agenda against him just because I believe that we have better central defenders at the club.
Yeah, he's Superman, isn't he? Yesterday, um, obviously recording on Sunday, so after the Ipswich game yesterday, even listening to the commentary, Neil Maddison referred to him as Baldini.
It's catching
Yes,
on.
yes, it is catching on, and get him on the plane.
Yeah, Nathan, obviously Hull, because of results, it kind of, at that time, going into yesterday's game, it felt like even though it was an extremely, extremely, extremely small chance, there was still that little bit of belief. Obviously, the way that results have gone now, as we say, it's kind of, apart from it being mathematic, it's effectively just sealed our fate. But again, yesterday, as I did following the conclusion of Wednesday night's game, the full time whistle went yesterday. And actually, in fairness, I was probably a little bit more disappointed yesterday because I felt, on the general basis of things, we probably should have won. Again, we scored early. Again, it was latte laugh. And then we concede a crap goal. But we had chances. And I was just, again, pretty pleased overall because we've gone to a difficult away ground. We obviously saw the results of Leicester on Friday night and Leeds in the early kickoff, and everyone thought, well, the other two teams have lost, so it only makes sense that Ipswich will just go and roll us over and put four past us. But yeah, we put up a fight. We've continued that interesting little run of form that the top three are going on at the moment for Sky Sports because we all know that they're absolutely loving every single second of it. But yeah, we gave a good of a account of ourselves, and on the basis of things, again, you look at sort of obvious, clear cut chances, and you think we're probably. I don't want to butcher his name too much here, so I'm just going to say the Ipswich keeper. We are an Ipswich keeper away from Baldini winning it in the final few moments and coming away from Portman Road with all 3 points.
Yeah, I suppose that's the simple way of putting it. There was a lot of chances in between that and a lot of sort of edgy, scary moments, probably for both sides in the game. I mean, again, less so for us because they have a lot more to play for than us. But yeah, still, first one, cross coming in from Davis in the first half. Chaplin should score at the front post. off the corner.
Lewis O'Brien's just fell asleep.
Yeah, he did. And having watched the EFL highlight show for the last year, it seems like that's a common theme that a Leif Davis corner goes into Chaplin's path or even on his head, despite him being a little hobbit. So yeah, should have scored there. Obviously, we quite funnily enough take the lead. And looking at the replies to the goal notification on Twitter, a lot of opposition fans were very happy with that. Yeah, they didn't have to wait too long, unfortunately, for an equaliser, 10 minutes. And yeah, as you mentioned, Clarkey's at fault. Maybe he's rocked from the penalty decision that could have been. Uh, literally, as this corner's about to come in, it comes as a result of that penalty decision. Sort of a whipped cross that, look, you said earlier that you can kind of see it being given as a
At, f-
pen.
at first glance, I was adamant. I was absolutely adamant it was about to be given, to be honest. And
Yeah,
we should also have one, slightly off topic, we should also have one probably 10 minutes after that when Latif has an effort. And I think it's Burgess that goes to ground and it comes off his arm. And also, we've missed the fact that the Ipswich keeper just decided he wanted to be a basketballer halfway through the first half.
yeah, he did. What is he doing?
Not
Roll.
what is he doing? How's it not being picked up on from the linesman or the referee?
Yeah, it's a shocker. It's a shocker, but look, that we know the standard of officiating in this league, and I know it shouldn't be glossed over. It really shouldn't be glossed over when you can have title races decided on shit decisions like that.
Well, look at Huddersfield yesterday. I don't know if you've seen that one
Yeah,
yet.
yeah, I have. Yeah, and yeah, I know it's again not exclusive, but she's incredibly poor as a referee and has been every time that she's been at Riverside as well. But yeah, yeah, it's a poor decision. I don't think it would have been a sending off. I think it would have been a yellow card because it was sort of accidental. He's not trying to gain any sort of advantage by coming out and sort of blocking a goal scoring opportunity. Is he's simply rolling the ball out to his teammate, but still, it's a contentious decision that isn't given. But yeah, that handball for Clark. I didn't think so. I thought it just hit his midriff, and watching the replays, his hands are in. If they're going to give it, then look, we might as well be in the Premier League with all the bullshit decisions that VAR gives. So yeah, pleased that they didn't give it, but he may have been rocked, and yeah,
There's no excuse, Nathan. I've got no
there
idea what he's
isn't,
trying to do.
there isn't.
I really don't. And do you know what? I do understand he's sort of the free man in the box. It's not something that I had picked up on, but I think largely, obviously, we go man for man. And then because of his ability, usually to go and win the ball in the air, he is just left spare to basically just try his best and go and win the ball once it comes into the box. At least that would be my only way of looking at it as the way that it's unfolded. Because if that's not the case and he's not picking anyone up, I've got no idea what he's doing. He's sort of doing this bizarre spin as though he's trying to get away from a defender from an attacking corner, ends up just facing our goal, not even aware of Luongo coming flying in, ends up in the back of the net. Luongo obviously gets contact and it goes in. It's just, again, it's crap. It's crap defending, and I've got no idea what he's trying to do.
Yeah, you have a game on your hands, and the tide was quickly changed. It was full steam ahead for the Ipswich tractor, and when Chaplin played Sarmiento through minutes after the goal, I just thought, well, here we go. And as he rolls it beyond the end, you think, yeah, here we go. Game suddenly turned on its head, and it clips the outside of the post nicely enough, and we survive a massive scare, and then go on to have a very big chance ourselves, don't we? As you mentioned, Latif. So yeah, going at half time 1-1. you're thinking, well, just sit in, see what you can do on the break. We will get chances because we've had them in the first half. They're not indestructible. Um, for the second time this season, I've watched them and I know it's really bad. Every side says it that plays them, but I just don't think they're that good, despite them being top of the league. They had chances in the second half. We had chances in the second half. We had the better chances in the second half by an absolute country mile. But the first one that stands out in the second half is Hutchinson coming in off that right hand side, and he gave Engel a torrid afternoon again for the
It
second time
wasn't
in a week.
quite Sheffield Wednesday away level, but Angle did have a long afternoon yesterday, I thought.
He did, and he's a top player. Is Hutchinson quick, tricky, can go either side, and yeah, he beats Engel to this ball. Sort of shrugs him off, and you think Engel's out the picture, and Hutchinson's going to get this shot off. And all of just as he's about to pull the trigger, Engel just comes out of nowhere, sticks his foot out and deflects it over the bar. And I honestly think he scores if Engel doesn't get
Oh
there.
yeah, for sure. He's got enough quality where you're expecting him to put it in the back of the net. If Engel doesn't, I mean, in fairness, you've got to praise him because he makes the recovery tackle. But yeah, he went past him and Clark, just waltzed past the pair of them, and it happened. And Amari Hutchinson's not really that type of winger where he constantly wants to go down the line. He wants to cut in and get shots off, but he had the beating of Engel that many times where he was going down the line and he was beating him. And Engel, apart from that one real horror show in the first half at Hillsborough, we haven't really seen Engel completely be targeted that much since then. He's more often than not been able to deal with his man for the most part to a point where you don't really notice it. But yesterday, it did feel like an extreme weak point. And Engel's a funny one in general. I think we were having a conversation this morning, along with Michael Manning, the guy that produces the brilliant graphics. If you don't know who we're talking about, and all three of us pretty much agreed that we're still a little bit unsure on Engel. And it is, I do find with Engel, one game he'll be excellent, and you think, yeah, this is a bit of a snip at what we've signed him for. It's someone that could be trusted to be our starting left back week in, week out. And then he has a performance like he does yesterday, and he's just a little bit up and down. And I hope he can find his consistency because there's certainly signs there. But yeah, that's uh, obviously at the end of the season, we'll talk about areas in which we really need to strengthen on if we want to be right up there next season. But I don't think it's a priority by any means, but I'm still a little bit undecided.
Yeah, I think he's certainly since that Sheffield Wednesday game, you've seen him grow into the position, and he's proved that he is a competent fullback at this level. But having gone from, as mentioned earlier, the sort of attacking profile of a fullback that we had in Giles, and seeing how exciting that was to constantly be switching the ball out to that left side and having Giles out there and just whipping crosses into the box constantly. To go from that to a more laboured fullback in Engel, who we sort of expected would fulfill that role, but he hasn't. Obviously, he's just sort of been your standard fullback. He gets forward at times, hardly ever puts a ball into the box, really. I suppose that's been sort of one thing that's been picked up on about him, that he's
He does
probably
go
not that.
square an awful lot,
Yeah,
doesn't
he's just not as exciting of a fullback, really. So that's probably why there is a little bit of a, well, we kind of want a little bit more from a fullback now that we've seen Giles play for us, and he was so good at going forward and such an asset on that side. So yeah, there is that little bit of a question mark there. By no means am I questioning Engel as a player. I think as mentioned, he is a competent fullback at the level, but you can always strive to improve. And if we sort of see a change in style going into next season and we sort of revert back to the Carrick way of playing that we saw last year, then we could see a whole different Engel and we might have a different opinion on him. But yeah, for now there are a few question marks on him, but not too much, I don't think.
Yeah, as you say, it's an interesting one, and a few performances just that I wanted to touch on, because they do split opinion, and also again the man that we mentioned earlier and his bend it like Beckham esque crossing ability. I am now starting to really sort of see for not especially what the club are going to do, but I think it's becoming almost as clear as day that Luke Ayling has probably earned himself a permanent contract. He had that spell where, let's be honest, he was really poor in a four in that right back role. He then sort of had a whole new lease of life as the right wing back in the back five, and I think that's actually where we started to see him really flourish in terms of going forwards and being an asset in that manner. But since we've reverted back to the back four, he's not perfect defensively, and certain wingers, you saw it especially against Sunderland. It just stands out that Jack Clark had him on toast the full afternoon. I mean, Jack Clark has also done that a numerous fullbacks, so it's by no means the sort of acid test of if you should be able to be a fullback in this division. But I think we've seen enough now where he's going to be a player that's going to be around next season, and it's not just because of his leadership skills and his little bit of shithousery. It's because he has something to offer, and I think that's fair enough. Moving on from individuals, overall happy with a point, and I'm not going to lie, it left me thinking again. We, if we don't give everyone a head start next season, we've got a right good chance because we've just matched, potentially could have even bettered a team that everyone's waxing lyrical about. Everyone, well, for the most part, wants to see them get promoted. And to be honest, I hope they do get promoted. It really, considering the fact that they've not spent anywhere in the region of what Leicester and Leeds have spent, fair play, go and be the underdog and get promoted. They have been great this season, but it just so happens that a few times where we've watched them and when they've played against Middlesbrough, I have thought, well, really, what's the I was almost waiting in both games to see that, oh wow, these are fantastic. Like I said with Burnley around about this period last year, they come to the Riverside, we give them a really good game, but they just had that extra bit, and you thought, yeah, they're destined for the Premier League. I just haven't seen that with Ipswich, but they may well still go and get promoted, so they will not care about my opinion.
Yeah, but again, look, we haven't seen it from Leicester either.
Yeah, that's true.
In either game, really. And obviously, yes, we did get beat at Leeds, but we gave them a really good game as well. In this run of fixtures since the international break, I've reiterated personally the point of I would like to take as many points as possible off teams that have things to play for. In the last week, we've taken points off Hull, we've taken points off Ipswich. With one more game to go against a side that has something to play for, I don't care if we go to Cardiff and get beat. I don't care if we go to Watford and get beat. If we beat them when they turn up at the Riverside on Monday night, it'd be absolutely brilliant. It would make my year. It really would.
Yeah. Yeah, it really would be fantastic, wouldn't it? I mean, and it's got all the sort of feelings of an occasion where, everything's in place. We don't necessarily have everything riding on the game, but we're in a good run of form. We want to continue that. It's under the lights on a Monday evening, live on Sky Sports. And Leeds really do have everything to play for. And wow, I mean, just how magnificent would it be if you just picture this? You did mention this earlier, so I'm stealing it from you. Full time, Middlesbrough 1. Let's say that Latilaf gets another goal. Leeds United 0. The teams in and around them win. And effectively, they are now tasked with doing whatever in the playoffs. As far as that goes, I think whoever misses out, what I will say now is I think they will not go all the way and get promoted, because I think mentally to lose out on the automatic spots this late on in the season will just kill mentality. And it may not be the case, but you've seen it happen so many times. However, at full time, Middlesbrough 1, Leeds United 0. Nathan, what song would be playing?
Love Will Tear Us Apart by Joy Division. As we all know how the chant goes. Do you want to know what? In fairness to them, they play up to it as well. And they do sing that chant about themselves. But not at this stage of the season, they don't, after they've just been beat at home by Blackburn Rovers, who lost 5-0 away at Bristol City on Tuesday night and rocked up at Ellen Road to dish up their Leeds United's first home defeat of the season. But yeah, anyway, less about that. Just beat these. It'd be absolutely brilliant.
Who was going to be 2024's answer to Curtis Main?
I actually remember that game as well.
So do I. Ishmael Miller flying down the left flank, a sight that only football purists would really enjoy. Yeah, the less said about that era of Middlesbrough, the better, really. But yeah, I think that rounds us off for another week. Obviously, as we say, the whole aim and sort of end goal for this season was to just end it with some momentum. We are managing to do so. The games are going by, but my God, it would be lovely just to ruin Leeds this season. It really, really would. And listen, it's not even because I think it's some sort of rivalry or it's a derby or anything like that. It's just Leeds.
It's
Everyone likes beating
just
them.
it's just because we are spiteful, horrible people and we love to
Our
see
team can't
Leeds.
get promoted, so we don't want anyone else's team to have any success. That's the way we are as football fans. If you haven't realised that already, then there's the confirmation that you're required. Yeah, Nathan, thank you again for your time this week. Please, as always, do like and subscribe if you've watched on YouTube. Audio listeners, please do rate and review. And yes, 9 unbeaten. Let's hope we can go the remainder of the season unbeaten, and it'll count for a big fat nothing. But who cares? At least we haven't had a rant about abysmal performances, e.g., Stoke away. Sorry to leave you with that thought in your mind. Goodbye. We will see you again next week with another episode of the Boropolis podcast.